how can I create a place with my niche audience who already love these types of foods to then come and procure them from other vendors?
Welcome to Honest E-Commerce, a podcast dedicated to cutting through the BS and finding actionable advice for online store owners. I'm your host, Chase Clymer, and I believe running a direct-to-consumer brand does not have to be complicated or a guessing game. On this podcast, we interview founders and experts who are putting in the work and creating real results. I also share my own insights from running our top Shopify consultancy, Electric Eye. We cut the fluff in favor of facts to help you grow your e-commerce business. Let's get on with the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Honest E-Commerce. Today, we've got a very awesome episode. You know how excited I get about niche communities and niche products, niche industries. I don't know if we could get more specific than what Hannah has been doing over there. She serves as the global community. She serves the global community as the founder of Kombucha Kamp. She's a co-author of an award-winning book, The Big Book of Kombucha. She's a co-founder and former president of Kombucha Brewers International. She knows a lot about kombucha. Hannah, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chase. Great to be here.
Oh, I'm excited to chat. So, I guess first and foremost, kombuchakamp.com is the website.
Kombucha Kamp with a K. Kamp with a K.
Kamp with a K, yes. Kombucha Kamp with a K is the website. I guess these days, what is going on the website? What is the content? What are the products? Just to let people know where we're at now.
Yeah, sure. So Kombucha Kamp, we are bacteria farmers. We sell kits and cultures, so you can make your own fermented drinks at home. We work specifically with 4 cultures. Kombucha, which is called a SCOBY. That's an acronym that stands for Symbiotic Culture, Bacteria, and Yeast. We also have its raw honey cousin, June, which you can also buy commercially. It's just got a lighter profiles, a little more sparkly, and of course is made with raw honey. Then we have milk kefir or kefir, which is a dairy ferment that you inoculate into milk, and it turns into this really rich, drinkable yogurt, super creamy, very dynamic for gut health. And then we also have water kefir, which is a term of convenience. It's also called tibicos or CBs. It's these cute little crystals that you put into sugar water, and they turn it into a light, bubbly, refreshing drink.
That's amazing. Now, you and I connected before on this, so I know the answer. So I'm not trying to lead you to, I don't want the same answers, but I guess first and foremost, just take us back in time. I don't think you ever set out to start an e-commerce business. What was the first iteration of this kind of path and that led to Kombucha Kamp?
So first of all, I had never heard of kombucha. This is the early 2000s. I'm living in LA. I'm, pursuing the acting. I teach foreign language because I speak Mandarin, Chinese, and Spanish. So, I've got little odd jobs and this and that. Well, I go up to San Francisco to visit a friend from college. We go to a premier raw food restaurant, Cafe Gratitude. Many of you may have heard of it. And he also happens to be brewing kombucha, which I've never heard of. It's this jar. It's got all this weird gooey stuff in there. And he goes, that's the kombucha. I'm like, okay, well, that's weird, but intriguing. So when I come back to Los Angeles, of course, all the Whole Food shelves are stocked with tons of kombucha. I just had never seen it before. And I bought my first bottle. I cracked it open. I had my first sip. Have you ever tried kombucha, Chase?
I haven't, but my wife loves it.
You got to borrow a sip one time. But in any case, for a lot of people, that first sip can be a little overwhelming and intense because kombucha is an acetic acid ferment like vinegar. Now, I was the girl sneaking the pickle juice out of the pickle jar. So when I had that first sip, it was like, oh, and the heavens opened and the angels were singing. And I just fell in love with this product. So much so, I started buying it all the time. My thirst outgrew my budget. So I knew I had to learn all about it. I went to the library. I checked out every single book I could find on it. And it inspired me to teach a class out of my home called Kombucha Kamp. Kamp with a K, because I'm cute and clever. I'm a little word nerd over here. And that class was literally just teaching people how to make kombucha. And it started out as by donation, which didn't last very long because you find out many people aren't willing to donate, even though you spent time and energy helping them. But it's an important part of the story because it's the people and what they want that then leads to this becoming not just a little side hobby that is a passion of mine, but in fact, my life's career.
Absolutely. So first is Kombucha Kamp in-house, in person, and it's a paid thing. When does it go online?
It's so funny how all this starts, because it's all sort of like with the birth of the internet and how it ends up being used for e-commerce. So I started blogging about kombucha in 2007, just a blog spot. I love it so much. I look online. There's a ton of misinformation about it. There's 2 women in Iowa who allegedly died, but of course they test the kombucha. There's nothing wrong with it, but still this stupid webpage exists and people get so worried about it. So things like this. So I really want to rectify that, because my experience with kombucha is it's life-giving. The old names for it are tea of long life, tea of longevity, and I'm experiencing that. And so I want more people to know about it. So I'm just blogging about it, and then people are reaching out and they go, hey, do you have a SCOBY? This or that? Oh, okay, sure. I'll send you one of mine. But this demand starts to gear up, and people start asking for cultures on a more regular basis. And it's like, oh, well, maybe I could sell these. So I start a very small operation in my home. I also bag up some tea. I make my own tea blend, which is still incredibly popular today. And it just sort of organically starts to unfold based on the interest and response from people reaching out.
Back then, it wasn't even in an e-commerce store at the start.
No. Those were PayPal buttons. So then how like there was eHow, there were all these sort of like how-to as YouTube started to become popular, and they wanted to produce all this content, like teaching people how to do things. And so a producer, I'm here in Los Angeles, of a web series reached out and said, hey, we want to put you on a web series. And that series still exists today. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on my website. But it is like the original Kombucha Kamp in my tiny little guest house in LA with my signature apron on. And so that starts also to get the word out with the videos. And I'm sure many people have learned from those videos, but they weren't monetized for me. I mean, maybe I got, $300 or something for teaching that, but it really is this time capsule of where I started. But then, so part of what I did is because I was so passionate about kombucha myself, I wanted to connect with everybody else who was passionate too. So anytime I heard about a brand or I saw something online, I would immediately reach out. I started podcasting before it was really even a word or a term. And I would interview different people and just like find out, why were they into kombucha? Tell your story. And so I collected the brands of every kombucha I could find on my website. And this plays into how I ended up becoming the co-founder and president of the trade association, and how I've helped so many commercial producers along the way. But it really was this very organic evolution. But what happened in 2010, so my husband and I, he started to see, hey, maybe there's a real opportunity here. He was in between things. He has a background in film and video production and different things. So he helped create a series of videos for the business. He also saw there was a great opportunity for us to start an online store. And that's what we did in 2010 as we launched. No time too soon, because in 2010 is also the year that inspectors came into Whole Foods, found that there may be alcohol above the legal limit in some kombuchas. And there was a withdrawal that happened. It was a big splash in our industry. And I'd already reached out to GT Dave prior to then. He's the guy who founded Synergy Kombucha, which is the brand, founded it in 95. He literally started the whole commercial industry. And we were the only people he'd grant interviews to, who he talked to about this, because he knew we understood that even though kombucha can sometimes have trace amounts of alcohol that go above the legal limit, it's not an intoxicating beverage. It's not something you're going to drink. You're not going to sit down and slam 6 kombuchas and get wasted or anything like that. And so we're in this weird spot, but it really, helped to launch the store, because all of a sudden, as they say, there's no such thing as bad press. People were like, I can't get my kombucha. I gotta make my own. So it really became a great catalyst to launching our e-commerce business forward.
Absolutely. So just to recap, you go to San Francisco, try kombucha for the first time, realize it's great, start learning all about it, realize you don't want to spend money on it, start making your own. People start asking you for cultures above and beyond the educational component that's there on the website. And then they ask you to start selling other people's kombuchas. And this thing just keeps snowballing and snowballing.
Exactly right. It really, I feel like I speak for the microbes. They have chosen me. I don't know how they knew I would be their spokesperson in the world. But, kombucha is an ancient beverage, right? Fermentation is ancient. And it's really here now, I think, because we're at an inflection point in history where we're seeing how important it is that what we put in our bodies impacts our health. And, having been through COVID those last several years, the kind of shifts in the landscape of everything about what we're talking about, the Make America Healthy Again movement, the getting the dyes. I've been part of a real food movement for a long time. I've been an advocate of raw milk and nutrient dense foods and, really a sort of traditional, steeped in tradition type of thought process in life. And fermentation is part of that. But I truly think there's a huge gift in it because it's our bacteriological heritage. So while we might have lost some of that along the way with antibiotics, with C-sections, with, all the different ways in which we're exposed to toxins and that can kill off our natural biome, we have these whole host of buddies who are here to help re-inoculate us and make us feel good and give us back part of what we've lost.
I have been in business for nearly 20 years, and very few companies I have hired in that time have performed as well as Electric Eye. They have knowledgeable staff, and our project was delivered on time and on budget. Electric Eye has exceeded my expectations, and I look forward to working with them again. That is a direct quote from one of our clients at Electric Eye. Electric Eye is a Shopify Plus partner that has helped over 100 brands migrate, redesign, and optimize their stores since 2016. If you'd like to increase your conversion rate, average order value, and revenue per session, we are the true Shopify experts you've been looking for. Right now, we're offering a free diagnostic to qualified brands that reach out and mention the podcast. Visit electriceye.io today to schedule a call and send us a message. Find out why we have over 50 5-star reviews in the Shopify partner directory. Again, that's electriceye.io, electriceye.io. You're investing in paid traffic, email, influencers, you're doing everything, but your store's still not converting like it should. That's the hidden cost nobody's talking about. If you don't know why people aren't buying, you're constantly losing money. Whenever conversion rate optimization comes up with brands, the first thing I ask them at the agency is what they are using for analytics and behavior tracking. Heatmap.com is my go-to recommendation because it's the only platform I've seen that connects user behavior directly to sales. That kind of visibility is critical for e-commerce brands trying to grow. I tell every brand that we work with to install Heatmap. It shows you what's working and what isn't using real behavior data tied directly to revenue. You get live heat maps, session recordings, funnels, and attribution down to specific product pages. This isn't just another analytics dashboard, it's a revenue optimizer. And right now, Honest E-commerce listeners get the hookup. They get a 14-day free trial. They get access to their ultimate 150-point CRO checklist. And as a bonus, you'll get a free setup by us over at Electric Eye when you ask for us to do so. So stop wasting another dollar guessing. Visit heatmap.com/honest. That's heatmap.com/honest and start seeing what your customers see, because clarity truly equals revenue. Let's be real. Sales tax is a nightmare. You didn't start an e-commerce brand to stay up late Googling tax laws or stressing over whether you filed in the right state. If you're still trying to DIY your sales tax, or worse, using a tool that leaves most of the work on your plate, you need to check out Zamp. Zamp is a fully managed sales tax solution built specifically for e-commerce brands. That means actual experts handle everything: registration, filings, remittances, all of it. Brands like Tushy, Glamnetic, and David are already using Zamp to get sales tax off their plate. Some Zamp customers spend as little as 2 minutes a month thinking about tax. Imagine that. No confusing pricing tiers, no surprise fees, just one flat rate to make the entire mess disappear. And yes, it works seamlessly with Shopify, Amazon, BigCommerce, QuickBooks, and more. So, if you're tired of sales tax headaches and want to stop risking penalties or audits, go to zamp.com/honest and get 3 months free. That's zamp.com/honest. Zamp.com/honest. Now, with the growth of the business through, the 2010s up, to like COVID, were there any other major shifts with the e-commerce side of the business?
Absolutely. Here's the thing. When we first launched, we were the low cost upstart. So there were already a couple of commercial sites out there, and they were selling their SCOBY for about $40 a SCOBY. We came in at $25. So this was my husband's brilliant idea. We're going to be the low cost upstart, and it really worked. And now we're at $28.88 is our culture. We didn't raise our price too much over these, last 15 years, but we are now expensive compared to most other places. So it's interesting to see how that shifted. The other thing that happened along the way is our book. When our book, the Big Book of Kombucha, came out in 2016, that was when our sales peaked. At that point, I was confident that our sales were always going to be on an up trajectory, and my husband was trying to warn me, and I was like, no, really, everyone's going to know about it. There's so many people who still don't know, and once they know, of course, they'll be buying their supplies from Kombucha Kamp. But of course, my husband, being more sensible than I, could see that that was not necessarily the case. Now, on top of this, we had started the trade association. So not only are we running a business out of our home, we are also running a trade association where I worked as a volunteer for 5 years and then finally in a paid capacity for the last 5 years. But what we were navigating is what I talked about earlier, this whole issue around the alcohol. So first, it created a total chill in the commercial industry. It created a sense of nobody wanted to talk to each other. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of worry that, we're going to get taken down by the federal government and things like this. Thankfully, that's not what happened, and we were able to create some collaboration. But, I spent a decade creating a code of practice that outlines the various ways to make kombucha, the processing steps and whatnot. And that's to enshrine traditional kombucha because, innovation's going to innovate. And they're like, oh, let me put some acids with some bubbly water. Oh, kombucha, right? But it doesn't have the same health benefit or reputation if it isn't made in that traditional format. We initiated the Kombucha Act, which was intended to raise that taxation threshold so that small producers wouldn't have to live under the fear of, having to update their process, or am I going to have to shut down my whole business because they're going to find it's at 0.6% and the legal limit's 0.5, right? So, we're talking about really slight fractions here, and it creates a lot of stress for people. So we've been doing a lot of work. We did a lot of work with that. Well, that took a lot of my time away from the business. So while it sort of was on autopilot for a period of time, it eventually started to break down because, as we know, the internet doesn't stop moving. And what used to work for SEO changed over time. We even had espionage. Somebody tagged our site they spammed us with all these links for organic cotton to drive our position down on the internet for kombucha. So, in this world, there's all kinds of weird stuff that can happen that you have to constantly be aware of. And thankfully, my husband was that person until he ended up being physically injured during COVID. He could no longer be in the business. It all fell on my lap while I was still managing two things. And it resulted in that last year, I had to leave my facility in a very, it felt really painful, right? Because here I had invested $250,000 into building up this production facility to make it perfect for brewing our cultures. It was probably larger than we needed, but it also served its purpose. And we created starter liquid and SCOBYs for many commercial brands that allowed us to build that facility. So we've been riding the waves is what I'm saying. We're riding the waves. So kombucha's been popular, and then it comes down because then you have things like functional health beverages, which are, a bunch of inulin and, Metamucil, if you will, in a soda. And they claim that's just as good for you as kombucha when it is not. It's not the same thing at all.
To kind of just parrot back what I heard about the business during COVID, a lot more responsibilities fell in your lap, and you were not only were you doing, you were running Kombucha Kamp, but you were also running the association and doing some consulting. And unfortunately, your husband couldn't help. So now you had all these things, and you had to take a look at things and pivot away from producing the products yourself. And so now you've gone back to partnering with folks on those products.
Exactly right. So, here's the reality. I never anticipated when I started blogging about kombucha that I'd end up a bacteria farmer or a manufacturer, having a warehouse and, employees and all the things that go with that. And, I have to admit, maybe I'm not the best boss. I never went to business school. I didn't have any training. I don't know that any of that even helps you be a good boss. But I learned a lot over the years in terms of managing people and how to do that. And the thing I think that as an entrepreneur, and maybe many entrepreneurs already have learned this lesson so far, is like I had an assumption, oh, well, people are just as hardworking and industrious and clever as I am. And of course, that's not the reality. If that were true, they'd have their own business. And so, right, you fall into that whole, I wish I could clone myself kind of situation. But of course you can't. And if you could afford someone who was at your level, you wouldn't still be a small business. Right. So all of those sort of normal things that came along with it really created a lot of stress and drama, because not only was I running a trade association, I was planning our annual conference. And now all of a sudden we're in a global crisis and nobody knows what to do. And all the terrain is shifting. So it was a lot of, it's been a series of dominoes of just sort of really being forced to re-examine the priorities and how do we continue this forward with a smaller footprint, with a lighter presence in certain places, because that's going to allow us to keep our doors open. So like you brought up, Chase, we shifted back to more of a drop shipping model, which was a model we'd used early on when we were working out of our home, because of course we didn't have any warehouse space. And so that model's been really great, and it's allowed us to work with new partners and old partners. And also what I realized is now there's a lot more bacteria farmers, thanks to all the work we've done, that in fact, there are some quality people we can partner with to help keep the Kombucha Kamp bacteria lines moving forward.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think what stood out to me about you and the business when we first chatted during the pre-interview was just the resiliency and just being like, okay, we'll roll with this punch. We're going to pivot. And I think that's what I wanted to highlight for people out there, is you understood that you needed to focus on what you were best at and allow other people to do what they were best at. And I think using co-packers and the drop shipping model is an amazing way to run a business and build a business. If you're good at the content and the connections and the partnerships, let other people be good at those other things. Just because the economy of scale for you to produce that product yourself, the margins weren't there versus someone producing it for you that's also producing for, let's say, a dozen other farms.
Exactly. I mean, at first it was like spitting straw out of gold, honestly. The kombucha SCOBY grows from making tea, and you put a SCOBY in it and then it grows. So it really felt a little Rumpelstiltskin-y. So at some point, I suppose the jig had to be up. But it is resilience. And in fact, that investment we made into a space that we rented, right? We didn't own that space, turned out to be a benefit, because when I had to leave, even though I signed into a lease, which, as you know, landlords are like never going to let you out of those, I was able to sublease it at a profit. So now every month I'm earning money on that, which is great, because it's helping to pay down some of the debts I accumulated during those last few years.
That's amazing. Now, looking towards the future, is there anything on the horizon that you're looking to do with Kombucha Kamp or, the e-commerce side of the business?
Oh my gosh, I've got ideas galore. And thankfully I have a really great team. Right now we're in a site redo. We're simplifying. I'm someone who loves details, and I have overcomplicated things. So I have so many options and choices. So we're really working on streamlining that information, putting more of the information behind a paywall. It really was our philosophy at first to give away as much information for free. That was part of some of those early internet those attitudes behind driving content and long form content and how do you get noticed with SEO and things like that. Now that so much of the content is out there, starting to put some of that more proprietary stuff or more in-depth stuff behind a paywall. We have a rewards program. You can earn, points that you can spend in the store. So a loyalty program, which we've seen a lot of other places pop up with. And then looking towards the future, I'm working on another book, which is about fermentation as a whole and how to incorporate it in your daily life. So not just how to do this one ferment, but rather how do I use fermented foods in my life and receive the most benefit out of it, in addition to recipes, of course. And then finally, I'm looking to create a marketplace, right? What I'm great at is connections. What I know are tons of people who make high quality fermented foods, and they're, because of COVID, starting to ship them all over the world. Well, how can I create a place with my niche audience who already love these types of foods to then come and procure them from other vendors? Because when you're into craft food, yes, you make them and you have the recipes and all that, but you also love to try other people's, because it's that enjoyment, it's the contrast, it's the comparison, it's the inspiration you get out of that kind of lifestyle. So we're excited to put that together. Not launched yet, but we're hoping to have that. And in the past, we had shipped kombucha with drop shippers before, and it just kind of fizzled out because it wasn't really a thing then. And now it's able to come back. So we're always thinking of the future. Our ideas just aren't always ready to land yet. But the good news is they're there, and we can launch them when the tools become available because of how quickly things are moving technology-wise.
Absolutely. Hannah, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Now, if I'm listening to this and I do enjoy kombucha, where should I go? What should I do?
Kombucha Kamp, Kamp with a K, because we're cute and clever over here. We're on all the socials as Kombucha Kamp. Even if you Google Kombucha Hannah or the Big Book of Kombucha, it's going to come up. I'm all over the place. Been doing this for, 20 years since it started out of my home. So if it's got to do with kombucha, I'm probably involved somehow. So all roads lead back to Kombucha Kamp.
Awesome. Hannah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Chase.
We can't thank our guests enough for coming on the show and sharing their knowledge and journey with us. We've got a lot to think about and potentially add into our own businesses. You can find all the links in the show notes. You can subscribe to the newsletter at honestycommerce.co to get each episode delivered right into your inbox. If you're enjoying this content, consider leaving a review on iTunes. That really helps us out. Lastly, if you're a store owner looking for an amazing partner to help you get your Shopify store to the next level, reach out to Electric Eye at electriceye.io/connect. Until next time.